welcome everybody. Kia ora to everyone listening in, to the people listening in using audio or anyone watching. Welcome. Welcome to the Ignorant News Podcast. I'm your host, Creative Taro, and we've got a special guest today who I'm quite excited to speak to. He's hailing from, at the moment, from the land of Ryu and Street Fighter, the home of Nintendo, sumo wrestling, and my favorite sushi. But before I introduce him, I'll actually get him to introduce himself, bro. I'll hand it over to you, brother Josh.
Hi, how's it going? Thank you for having me. And I think your outro music will be especially fitting today, seeing as where I'm coming from. I'm from New Zealand. My name's Josh, but I currently live and work in Japan, and specifically Hyogo, Japan. That's the prefecture, or sort of like saying Canterbury instead of Christchurch, sort of thing, like the region.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm really into rugby league. I'm a big rugby league fan, and I also love op shopping and secondhand clothes, and mainly New Zealand stuff and Australian stuff. So yeah,
nice.
Excited to have a chat.
And your pages, bro, that you run that people might be familiar with.
Yes. So my personal page is Too Much My Bro. Then my account where I sort of sell stuff is One World of Sport. So I run that with my friend. And then I have a couple others. I have Auckland Warriors, like for my Warriors collection stuff. And got one for my son now, but it's just sort of starting off. Have some kids stuff on there.
The stuff for your son, is that just kind of like documenting his little journeys and adventures, or is it?
Oh no, it's more just clothes, to be honest.
Oh, nice.
But maybe eventually, once he gets past just crawling around our lounge, then maybe I'll put some more stuff on him up there.
Damn, you're starting him young, bro. That's mean.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say 80 to 90% of his clothes are secondhand at the moment.
That's dope.
And where we are, there's like so much cool kid stuffs, and it's really affordable. So I mean, might as well buy it. Like, it's really cool, and it's a bit different to what everyone else is wearing, and some really nice brands that we don't usually see in New Zealand so much. So yeah, it's cool.
I bet. I put out there this morning on my story. I'm having a podcast session with the bro. Got any questions for me? And I had a few questions come in, bro, that I'd like to get into. But
okay,
I guess before that, if we can dig a little bit into, where you're from back home in New Zealand.
Yep. Okay, so I was born in Whakatane.
Eastern Bay of Plenty.
Yeah. So my mum and my dad were both from that area. Like, my mum was from Awakiri, Edgecombe sort of area, like her family. And my dad's from Kawerau. So, I grew up in Kawerau until I was about 9 or 10. And then we moved up to the Big Smoke. Well, not quite the Big Smoke. We were moving to Auckland, but we actually moved to Waiheke Island. So it was still like a small community. But big change for me. Yeah. So
yeah.
And then I went to school in Auckland. I went to boarding school in Auckland, and then after that went to uni in Auckland. Eventually, sort of fucked around, and then lived in Aussie for a bit in Sydney, and then been in Japan now for 2 years. It's just gone 2 years. So now I'm married and have a baby. So
nice.
It's all happened pretty quick once I got to Japan. Definitely, life's changed. I'm a father now, and so it's good. It's a nice feeling.
Wow. So you started out. So I'm for those listening or watching, I'm actually in Kawerau as we speak. So this this podcast is quite it's quite fun for me because coming from such a small community, as you know, bro, this is your old man's home. You know, this is his backyard, and he would have probably heaps of memories growing up here. You know, it's a tight knit community, very small. We're always in the news for the wrong reasons, but I love it here. Like, I wouldn't change it for the world. I've been here maybe 10 years, so I'm not actually from here. My partner's from here, so that's how I ended up here. But like, I've been here for over 10 years. I just wouldn't.
I didn't realize that you'd been there for so long. I thought it was just like recently that you'd moved there.
Oh, for reals? No, no.
Yeah.
No, I've been here for about 10 years, bro, and like,
Oh, that's cool.
I carry this place on my shoulders everywhere I go. Like, seriously, bro. Like, I rep Ktown hard, eh? And it was quite funny. I think I was in the op shop and I was sharing my story, and I think that's when you made the link, right? You were like, bro, are you in Kawerau?
Yeah, you posted up a Tasman jacket. So Tasman is the main, like, was the big main, like, employer in the town and big paper mill. And for me, like, my granddad worked there. He was a builder, like a chippy. So he worked in the mill for 20 years, and then he worked in the forest for Tasman for 20 years. So, and my dad also did his apprenticeship there. He did a welding apprenticeship at Tasman. So for me, Tasman is like, yeah, very nostalgic. So that's why I hit you up, like, yeah, I'm keen to get that jacket. And then ended up, somehow you turned it into 2 jackets. So I was over the moon.
Yeah.
But yeah, life was amazing in Kawerau, to be honest. Like, as you say, small town. I think that sort of environment for kids is pretty cool. I could ride my bike everywhere. I started playing league for the Tarawera Raiders when I was 5.
Shout out.
And so it was league for me. Even I just loved it. So even in summer we played. We called it summer league. It was tag, but yeah, they must have got on that pretty early in the town. I think it had only just sort of come about, but that was probably 94, 95, 96, 97 sort of years we were playing. So in the town back then, there was 4 schools.
Yeah.
So there was pretty reminiscent of my shirt, actually, but I went to the blue school, Central. So that was pretty close to where the high school is now.
Yep.
I think they just started, or maybe they're going to build a bunch of houses on there finally. It was like kind of an abandoned bit of land.
They've started, I think. Haven't been down that street in a while.
Yeah, so my dad used to just live over the back fence from there. So I went there, and then there was North, that was the red team. There was Putowaki, that was the green team. And then there was South, that was the yellow team, I think. I might have mixed those two up, the colours.
Putowaki yellow, South green, I think.
Yeah, okay. And then, so we had all these tournaments, like, it was every week, and there was these, like, these summer league tournaments going on, and it was awesome, man. Like, we treated it so serious. Obviously, it was, like, little kids playing, but for me, I was, like,
serious,
playing in the NRL sort of thing. Like, I was serious. Getting mad at my teammates, bossing everybody around, because I played every year, and so, like, when you're playing sport back then, and then kids turn up when you're like 7 or 8 and they haven't played before, so the coach has to like go back to the basics, and then you're like, oh, I just want to the core kids that have been playing for a while just want to keep like progressing. But yeah, it was really fun.
One of those impatient guys.
yeah. I was the only child, so maybe I didn't quite have those skills of like being able to deal with that. I guess that's how I learned of like being in a team and stuff. But yeah, I put down some memories about Kawerau quickly that I remembered. I remember one time my mum got me these new shoes, new Nikes, and then I went swimming down the river with my friends. And I left my shoes just by the river, and then they got stolen, bro. And then, like, because the town's so small, and like the shoes were pretty distinctive. I think from memory they were like maybe the Nike Air Up Tempos, the one that say Air on the side. Like, they were pretty distinctive. So pretty soon after, there was rumors like, oh, I'm pretty sure this dude did it. Like,
Yeah.
and I was mates with this guy who was maybe like a year older. He was kind of like my like guide through the street, you know, like this is what we need to do to sort it out. So he was like training me up to like have a scrap with this dude, and like had organized to have a scrap with the dude and shit. It was buzzy. Like, don't think the fight ever went down, but there was always a weird vibe with the kid who, like, he never wore the shoes, or like we never saw him wearing them. So like it could never be proved, but it was like this mad like rumor that he had done it. But yeah, I remember the sports shop in the main sort of square was pretty mean. Like they had starter caps and Jordans, and yeah, it was pretty
Was
buzzy
was
for a small
was
town.
that was it Dellison's or was that a different shop?
I feel like Dellison's might have been like a menswear,
Oh,
women's wear
okay.
store.
Because
I don't know if it was a Sterling, but it might have been a Sterling Sports.
oh
I feel like
wow, when I got here, there was
just a
absolutely
little one.
there was like nada here, bro. Still is. There's
Yeah,
no clothes stores at all. So whenever people like yourself who like tell me, no, there was a sports shop here, da da da, I'm like, are you for real? Like,
yeah,
damn.
yeah. There was quite a lot going on back then. Or that's what it felt like. I didn't know any different. You know? Like I would go to Rotorua, Tauranga, like maybe 2, 3 times a year, and like go to like Bayfair or whatever. So to me, that was the big smoke. Um, I might go to Auckland like as I got a little bit older. My grandparents moved to Waiheke, so I would go there for the holidays sometimes, and then that was even more mind blowing, you know. Like, so yeah, my mum didn't drive, so I didn't really travel too much out of Kawerau apart from league trips or in the holidays maybe. So yeah, I lived a pretty like it was cool. Like I didn't know any different of like that stuff could be bigger or
Yeah,
there was more out there or what. Or I lived in a small town. I wasn't really aware.
I love it here in summer, bro, because like the river's just packed, and
Mm.
it's not uncommon to see like kids going down the rapids, like just on a
Yeah, they're
kid.
all the still the nicknames. Like I remember the Rapids. There was like the Sandies or
Yeah,
something. I
Sandy's is
remember.
still there. Sandy's is still around. Yeah, there are
And people
some.
used to go down and like swim against the current in some places for their like exercise. It was like one of those like wave pools, but like in the river.
People still doing that shit, bro.
Yeah, and jumping off the trees and
There's a few tree jumps. The bridge, the blue bridge, past the golf course.
oh,
You
okay,
remember? Yeah,
like towards Tarawera sort of thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's a
Um, I love the pools. The pools were so dope. Like we always used to love the fact like it's free, still
yeah,
free,
still free.
like
Yeah,
heated pools. We used to have all our like league breakups there, like all our league
still
photos,
doing it, man. Yeah.
prize givings, and like just used to go to the pools. My dad was obsessed with going to the pools like every day, so we just used to go to the pools and
That's such a Kawerau thing, bro.
it
Like
was good.
especially for like dudes who like knock off mahi, they'll just go
Yeah,
down and have a spar and catch up with have conversations in there. I've had like many a conversation in that spa pool, but it's real
yeah,
cool. Like you get to meet all the different kind of walks of life, but they all live here in Kawerau. It's pretty choice.
yeah, yeah. Like my dad used to go there like every day for his like wash. Like he didn't used to have a shower at home. He just used to go down, use the spa pool, use the shower, and then like funny dude. What else do I remember? Oh, I remember kids going. There was a fish and chip shop. Like it's still there, I think. And kids used to go there and ask for crispies, like the leftover little bits,
Ah, yeah.
and then they used to get like this little package, and then it would be like, oh shit, I found a little bit of fish, like real stoked, or like a little bit of hot dog or something. Like that was one of the memories that I used to think was real funny about Kawerau. Simple
This,
pleasures, man.
yeah, man, the small things in life.
And
Uh,
one time, my mum and I were at the supermarket at the New World, and then there were these. They weren't like street kids, but they were just always hanging out on the streets. You know, like maybe they had kind of like tag nicknames, like that sort of crew. And they were stealing from the supermarket. And my mum and I were like, "Whoa!" Like they were going out the entrance as we were coming in, and they were stealing raro, bro.
Essentials.
Uh,
Oh man, that's crack up. You
but yeah,
still
that that time was great. Like I still, yeah, that's why I want to like Tarawera Raiders or Kawerau Raiders jersey like so bad,
Yeah,
because I've got the photos of me wearing them, and
yeah,
then I got asked a couple of times on the Putawaki Stags like
yeah.
page, and people just like laugh at me. So I feel like you're my only shot to get one. Uh,
I've definitely put the word out because they. I think the ones that because we used to play in them 2014 and then they got new uniforms like the Stags uniforms. So I don't know where
yeah,
that bag of jerseys went. So I've been hunting
yeah,
them
there must be
down.
like a kit bag at someone's house in the
Someone's
garage
got
or
it,
something.
eh? So,
Yeah,
but then I was told that those jerseys aren't even the original ones. So I'm like,
yeah.
oh, okay. So,
Yeah, so there was a name change while I was playing. So like we used to be Tarawera Raiders. So
mm,
like we used to use like they were like cotton, just red with a white V sort of thing. Um, and then we had this time where like they did all this fundraising, bro. Like they went hard doing raffle tickets and like all that sort of stuff. Just like grassroots at the pub, like doing tickets. Um, Cake stalls, and then we got all new uniforms, and they were beautiful. And then we had a name change to Kawerau Raiders, and those were like the polyester kind
yep,
of
yep.
jerseys. And we got a bunch of like at the same time we got like Canterbury headgear, Canterbury shoulder pads. It was like we'd won lotto, man. It was crazy. It was like the biggest upgrade to our whole kit. And around that time, we also went on a trip to Auckland. We had an exchange with the Te Atatu Roosters,
Oh, nice.
and we had like a game against them. And we went to like Waiwera. We stayed at, I can't remember where we stayed, but yeah, it was a mean trip. It was amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent here that's come out of Kawerau, bro. And like just off the top of my head, bro, we got young Willie Warbrick who lives around the corner from me. He's just got back from Japan Olympics, got himself a silver medal, bro.
Oh, okay.
Like in the
What was he?
sevens.
What was he playing? Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, and I think he was at his parents' house mowing the lawns, bro. Like he's
Yeah,
just still super like normal, like
yeah. And
just
Whakatane had a couple of obviously Lisa Carrington, but there was some
yeah,
sevens players I think too. The
yeah. I think
women.
women and men's. I think yeah. I
So,
think Ruatoki had a few. And it's quite funny because I live across the road from Sarah Walker's parents.
yeah,
So it's like,
I went to kindergarten with her.
oh, crack up, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember, but my mum was like
Oh, true. Yeah,
last
yeah, yeah.
last Olympics or
Yeah.
a few Olympics ago. My mum was like, "You went to kindergarten with her," and I was like, "Oh, true."
Oh, true. Yeah. It's like, it's pretty crazy. Like, even though it's a real small town, like, when you're talking about these trips that you went on and stuff, like how organized they were, how they were like getting gears for the kids and headgear and taking them on these excursions that were like experiences that they remember for the rest of their life, like you've just told me about. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah,
remember going up there, playing Te Atatu Roosters, going to Waiwera. So yeah, it's an awesome little town like that. Eh? Like I love that little small community, gather together, support hard, all for the kids type of mentality. And it's
yeah.
still the same,
Seems
bro.
like they're still doing it too. Like I remember I went to a
Yeah, bro.
Warriors game. Must have been 5 or 6 years ago now or something. But I encountered a Kodo team there, so I went and had a chat with them and stuff. It was pretty cool. They were just in the stands watching the game.
Yeah.
They were on a trip. Yeah,
Nah, they're still very much like that here. Eh? So it's a real awesome. Yeah, love it here, bro. It's mean. And we're always wanting people to come back and bring their expertise, bro. So the offers there.
I can open another like toilet paper factory or something.
It's pretty cool to hear you talk about rugby league, bro, being your like, you love it, right? And
Yeah.
one of the how I came across you, bro, was on the One World of Sport page. A friend of mine, Dujon, had actually purchased the jacket off you, and then I followed you, and then I was like looking for shit my size, and I was like, damn, story of my life, couldn't find anything. Big boy life. And then yeah, and then I started and then realized found your other page, Too Much More, bro, and then I followed you there, and then we made that Kawerau connection, and now here we are having a kōrero on the podcast. So the thing for me, bro, is when did your, I guess, because we all have interests, see, but when did your interest in like rugby league and like perhaps collecting turn into like a passion, or is it a passion, or like when did you remember like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start collecting, or
Mm,
were
I
you
guess,
just kind of like buying stuff naturally and then decided, hey, I've got a collection here?
yeah, I guess like my grandpa, he was always really into sport. Like, always had the cricket on the radio. Always like he was into sailing, so he loved like he was kind of making his own boats and sailing. So he was like really into the America's Cup, and he would take me to sporting events. He loved motorbikes, so like we'd go to like Paeroa to Battle of the Streets, or maybe Pukekohe to see the Britain motorbike. Like, um, so I think he kind of instilled this thing about sport to me, that was like a cool thing, and I going to live sport, wearing the gear. Um, and I think I grew up in the right time, like in terms of the gear now that I think about that I love is from the 90s. Usually, the closer it is to 1995 to me, the cooler it seems to look and feel and whatever. So I always liked it. When you're a teenager, you wear stuff from America and stuff, you know. So I was pretty into. I love Nike, but also like went through a big polo phase of like polo rugby jerseys are cool. So and starter jackets, stuff like that. So I was maybe like 18 when I first started buying stuff from America, like on my mate's credit card that had a shop, and I would buy stuff just for myself. And then eventually, when I went to uni, I got a credit card so I could like buy the odd thing online. Stuff was so cheap back then on eBay. This was probably 2006 sort of time, maybe 2005, 2006. So because New Zealand's so small, like I had friends that would buy stuff from America, then we'd sort of trade shoes. Once you're sick of them with your mates, you trade them, and rugby jerseys last for a long time. So, ごめん。暑くない？大丈夫です。Okay. So yeah, it was kind of always instilled in me to like be trading things and thinking about what other people would like or what they have and how I can get it, and that sort of buzz. I think was from that time.
Yeah.
And then I eventually just got more and more into New Zealand stuff. I just realized I had this like kind of moment where I was just thinking like American stuff doesn't really mean anything to me. Like personally, I can't really get excited about like wearing a starter jacket of this American college or American professional team that I don't have any ties with, or I didn't really watch those games specifically when I was a kid. Like obviously I had the Michael Jordan poster on my wall, but like I can't remember really seeing that many games. I don't even know if it was on TV that was that accessible in New Zealand at the time. But I remember Daniel Loader winning those gold medals. I remember Jonah Lomu stamping all over the dude in the World Cup. I remember the Warriors' first season and kids getting starter hats and us thinking they were some fake team, and like that's what does it for me, bro. So like that's why I'm like so into New Zealand stuff. And then I guess like I just got too much stuff eventually, and then realized that I should maybe like spread the love a little bit. The dude that I run One World of Sport with, like we before we started the page, I would meet up with him and we'd do trades. Like he's like, oh, I'll just bring a couple of t-shirts, bro, and then like he'd turn up with these boxes of like amazing stuff that he'd just been on Trade Me for years, op shopping, like markets, whatever, and he just has the best stockpile. He still does have my favorite collection. So yeah, we do like little trades here and there, and then probably the tipping point was there was this big thing for us. This family, they bought this storage unit. I think it was from Trade Me. It was $4,000, and they didn't really know exactly what was in it. They knew that there was like some clothing and stuff on Trade Me. Now they just have, when they have the storage units on Trade Me, they just have like a couple of shots, and you have to like take a gamble, you know. So they bought the storage unit, and then it ended up just being this stockpile, bro, of some dude who had been from England, but he was living in New Zealand, and he was buying things from sports stores in the 90s and early 2000s, maybe when they were having like end of season sales or whatever, but he was just buying racks of stuff and putting it in the storage unit. And he just stopped paying. Maybe he passed away, I don't know, but he just stopped paying the rent on it. And then that's what happens with storage units, like you stop paying the rent and then they just sell it.
Yep.
And that's part of the terms and conditions when you sign that, like if you stop paying the rent and they can't contact you, then it's all over, you know, like storage wars sort of vibe.
Yeah.
So they opened this, they had so much stuff, they were like overwhelmed. And so they sold a couple things on Trade Me. My mate, he bought a couple things and was posting on his Instagram, and we were kind of like, where the fuck is he getting this from?
Yeah.
And then like maybe a month or two later, they had this pop-up store on Ponsonby Road. And so they had hired the space. It was in Ponsonby Central, like in the front window. And they'd hired like an FPOS machine, and they had the family there all helping to sell it. But they didn't really know if they had a feeling that people would vibe with it, but they didn't know what was going to happen. So it basically set off these like, bro, have you heard about this shop? Like messaging around, because this was before they weren't savvy to Instagram or Facebook really. So it was just like word of mouth. Like my mate messaged me and was like, bro, there's a shop selling like Steinlager rugby jerseys, bro. And I'm like, fuck off. And he's like, yeah, man, they've got like heaps of it. I was like, where is it? And then Ponsonby Central. I was working at the bottom of College Hill at the time. So I took a early lunch break, went for a stroll, and walked in there, and it was like walking back in time, man. It was like walking back into Sterling Sports in Kawerau when I was like 7 years old. It was insane. It was like American gear, New Zealand gear, jackets, T-shirts, rugby jerseys, pants, shoes. Maybe like 6 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So I was looking on One World of Sport. We started One World of Sport January 2017. So in a few months, it'll be 5 years since we started. And then it was before that, like maybe a year or so. So I'm guessing around 6 years. So I bought a bunch of stuff that I wanted, and then it was so nicely priced too. Like they just needed to get rid of it. Like they had too much stuff.
Yeah.
And then they were also bringing in more stuff the whole time. They had like a truck out the back with all these bags in it that they were just constantly bringing in. So you kind of had to like wait there all day to like, it was crazy. They had these big bags of hats that we were just going through like, it went for a week, and I was going there every day, and it was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Like specifically New Zealand stuff, you know, like you can go to stores maybe in America and find dead stock stuff, or you see the YouTube videos of people finding these like polo stashes or Nike stashes. But like this was our version, man. This was crazy. This was like what we'd been dreaming about. Like someone actually had been doing it. Someone had actually been buying this stuff and putting it away, and then it had just been forgotten about for like almost 20 years or over 20 years, some of the stuff. So we eventually got friendly because, you know, they were really friendly people. And so we got talking to them, going there all the time, a few of us. And so I eventually ended up going out to their house and sorting a bunch of stuff with them, like telling them the values and like telling them where they should sell each thing. Like, oh, maybe you should try sell this cross colors leather jacket on eBay, because like someone in America will probably want that rather than, you know, like, and then I was making a little pile for myself while I was there that I was going to buy. And then they hooked me up like so cheap, man. Like I still feel bad about how my life, but they were just so lovely. They just wanted to thank me for my time, because I spent like a day there. And then, it was like Nike Super League Warriors jacket was one of the things, like, and I'd never seen one in real life before that point. And so I was just like, wow. And I still got these leather shoes, these English leather shoes that the original retail was like $400 or something. And then I still wear them, like whenever I have to wear a suit or whatever, I still have those shoes and stuff. So I have really good memories about that time. And then eventually we went and bought some more stuff off them, and we just had so much stuff. So we were like, oh, might as well start trying to sell it.
Yeah.
So that's how we got into selling, I guess. And always selling random stuff on Trade Me. You know, I buy stuff, I wear it, I get sick of it, I sell it. That's just how I've always been, I guess.
That's crazy, bro. That's a mean story, yeah. Like the fact that someone had found a storage kind of like, you know, full of it, and then that's how you stumbled across it. I always like the backstory behind things, like even pieces, and that's one of the things I like about your page too, is sometimes you guys like provide some little bits of information just about like the jersey or the event that happened during this time. And I think I was talking to Rax about it, Rack Diggers, just about how sometimes he talked about the value behind the material, and like how, you know, jerseys, for example, have stories behind them. And, you know, I know you're a Warriors man hard. So like what are some, you know, getting into some of the grail-y type stuff, bro, what are your, one of the questions that came up, bro, on Instagram, right, was what are the grails that you don't have?
I don't like the word grail, to be honest. Like, it's all good for other people to use it, but like to me it's kind of like I don't know, I guess I'm too Kiwi, you know, like these like introduced words like that got introduced like 5 minutes ago in New Zealand, like thrifting and what's the other one that people like to say? Yeah, grails, and I can't think, I'll think of some more soon. But to answer the question how people want to answer it, I want me to answer it, I guess there's a blue starter jacket, blue starter hat, sorry, that's just like the Warriors script. That's really nice. There's a blue starter windbreaker that my friend has that folds up into a bag. That's really nice.
Oh, wow.
But I think I answered your question on Instagram. I replied saying that I like to think that my most sought after items I haven't actually seen yet. So like I like to believe that there's things, and because the 90s, you know, it's so hard to find information, that stuff's not online. There's not really catalogs that have been archived properly yet. Hopefully that will happen for New Zealand stuff. So it's kind of like sometimes you find stuff that you didn't know existed. And like we have the saying amongst my friends that like just when you think you've seen it all, then like this appears, you know. So like this jersey, for example, I didn't know it existed until I bought it a couple months ago in Japan. Found it in Japan.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah. So there's like obviously other versions of this, like New Zealand Jersey Hunter has the one and it's got a big blue patch down here. It's got DB Bitter. I'll show you a little bit better. But yeah, I didn't know that this specific one, there's a kind of a kids version that has DB, that has like sponsor. There's a red one that I think players had that had the DB Bitter. But yeah, I quite like this jersey. It's got the New South Wales Rugby League tag,
nice.
Early days sort of thing. Probably, I guess, 94. It's 94.
Damn. And that was in Japan, you said? You found that over
there? Yeah.
Right.
So that's the next part of that's where I'm at right now, is like, when I moved here, I didn't think that I'd be finding too much stuff, you know, like in terms of that I'm interested in. So I thought, you know, be open-minded, you might have to adapt and get into some different kind of stuff. I was kind of excited for that, you know, like maybe I can, my style can change a little bit with like adding a few new bits and pieces with my old stuff. But to be honest, it's just all been New Zealand stuff that I've been finding. I didn't realize, but like a lot of people in the 90s from Japan came to New Zealand for a holiday, and they picked up a lot of souvenirs, brought it back to Japan, and just kept it mint for 20, 30 years, and then that's where I come in, I guess.
Damn.
So yeah, there's New Zealand stuff appearing daily. It's crazy, and like all kinds of different stuff that I've never seen before, even in New Zealand. Like all over print tea and ski stuff, and I posted up that jumper the other day, like New Zealand says or something. So yeah, fairy down stuff, and then there's also the Japanese Canterbury stuff that we didn't really have too much touch with in New Zealand. Obviously, we'd imported a few random things, those crazy all over print jumpers and stuff like that. But maybe I'll show you some stuff.
Oh, bro, let's go.
Like, for example, this hoodie is Japanese Canterbury.
Oh, wow.
And it's based on New Zealand Endeavour. I quite like the back. So the Endeavour was the boat in the 93, 94 Whitbread around the world race. So I think what happened, I don't know exactly when this happened, maybe mid to late 90s. But Japan obviously got the book of, or the files, computer files of like all the designs that were happening in New Zealand, and just ran wild with them to like appropriate it to their market sort of thing. So that's where all these crazy things appeared from. And it's funny, it's come full circle now. I mean, this never came out in New Zealand. And then now New Zealand Canterbury has made their version of it.
Yep.
So it's it's come full circle. I quite like that we started off in New Zealand with the Steinlager 2 merchandise that everyone was wearing, and then Japan took the logos and made their own versions for their market, which in my mind is fucking dope.
Shit,
And then now New Zealand is like taking that stuff and releasing it now, their version of it. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's crazy, bro, because when I first stumbled across your page, I had never seen Canterbury New Zealand gear like that. I was so used to the like netball uniform style Canterbury stuff, and I was like,
super plain.
And it wasn't until I saw a Source magazine, bro, maybe like early 2000s, mid 2000s, I want to say, and they had a like a spread like in the middle of the page of like the different like clothing brands and stuff like that, and Canterbury of New Zealand was in it.
Yeah.
And I was buzzing out there. I was like, what the hell? Like,
what was the item?
It was just rugby. It was rugbies.
Yeah.
Back then they were like long sleeve rugbies, and I was thinking to myself like, oh, those are just rugby jerseys. Like, why are they in there, and why are they so expensive? Like, But it was like so
there was a time when Canterbury was popping in America. Like they had a few stores and stuff. Yeah. And with the college, that preppy college, they play rugby in college in some places, so that whole vibe of like, polo, all those brands, and it married up with that. But yeah, Canterbury rugby jerseys are like a big thing in Japan too. Like you'll see, there'll be like, I don't know if you've seen, but there's like guides on every kind of clothes, and they have like all these archives and stuff. And then in the outdoors archives, you'll see like a Canterbury rugby jersey. And yeah, like Shonard, the guy who started Patagonia, he was initially buying rugby jerseys from England, like Umbro ones, and then selling them in America under his brand. And then because they were so good for climbing, like you could have ropes around here and they just wouldn't get roughed up, like a normal polo shirt would. Like rugby jerseys could handle that shit. And he was also getting Canterbury jerseys eventually too, when they couldn't get enough. And then they eventually made their own jerseys. But yeah, Canterbury jerseys, it's not unusual to find them in America online, like that is still floating around. And there's always that souvenir market that I like when people go on holiday, buy a jersey, go back home, and then eventually sell it.
Damn, that's crazy.
Some of my
That's so
best
cool.
Kiwis and Warriors gear has come from America. It blows my mind.
Damn, and just because
I
it
don't know
just
how stuff gets places, but it's fuzzy. Like random jerseys from like that have ended up in Romania and like uh, obviously there's the big Malaysian collectors. I don't know if you know much about them, but um, they're like the biggest collectors of Canterbury in the world, and they're all in Malaysia. So yeah,
random, bro. That's so
I'd love to get
random.
over there. Like that's one of my little projects that I'd like to have eventually would be to go over to Malaysia and meet the collectors and see their collection and see how they source their stuff, because
Mm.
that would be pretty cool. I don't think people in New Zealand really realize that
No,
some of
you,
our brands are like
yeah.
so popular in certain places with certain
Uh,
people.
you're making me realize right now, bro, and that's so cool. Like, I kind of figured, and only because I follow your stuff, and I ask you questions, or send you a message, and then you'll like fill me in a bit. But that's crazy. That I just love how New Zealand, on a global scale, labor, it always seem to do so well. And even in terms of like other that information you just shared about Patagonia, didn't know that, bro. Had no clue.
Yeah,
But that's so cool.
this hat came from the storage unit,
Damn.
old Line 7. This is
Dude,
like one of my favorite caps to wear.
that is dope. Have you? I don't think I've seen the stuff you're showing me, bro. Is it on your
Um,
page?
some of the stuff is I kind of tried to pick stuff that
Oh, okay.
maybe I'd forgotten to share or hadn't shared or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, this is what we were talking about with
Oh,
the it being big in America. This Canterbury International hat
yep.
is one of my most favorite things. Other people don't really seem to post it all that often, so it's kind of cool to me when stuff does pop up. I've got a few things from it now, but yeah, this was I got this from America like not that long ago, but usually they have Australian flags on them, but this one has a New Zealand flag, so pretty cool. And then on the back it's got Japan, which is nice.
Damn.
Um, and I've got a nice Canterbury International T-shirt that's probably one of my most prized items. I've actually got one back home too, but this one's still new with the tags. But
Bloody
yeah, to
hell.
me the logo is like unbeatable. Yeah. Like that blue color is like insane.
Blow. That's crazy.
And still yeah, little tags. So yeah, they're bringing back that world's toughest activewear sort of lion at the
Little
moment.
little
That's what they're
slogan.
doing with the yachting stuff, and
Yep.
they've released a couple of other things, but there's some really cool stuff coming too,
Dope.
which I'm excited about. Because to me,
Yeah.
like, I just want to see Canterbury shine, man. Like,
Big time.
um,
Hard out, bro.
even
Yeah.
if they just release like 2 or 3 items each year that I want to collect and put away, I'll be stoked. Because
Yep.
there was a fair few years where like they weren't doing anything too interesting apart from the Warriors gear for me. So yeah, it's a bit sad they're not going to be the Warriors kit suppliers anymore. So,
Mm.
but at the same time, it gives me a clear, defined time frame of when to stop collecting Warriors gear again. Because like it's going to be Puma, I think. So, and I don't get down with Puma. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy, man. Like, you're so right about, you know, kind of kind of betting for Canterbury, New Zealand, right? Like you want to support them, and because they carry the flag, and they're no matter where it is in the world, people, it's got it in its name, Canterbury, which is a region of New
mm,
Zealand, which is the country. Um, no, that's awesome, eh? Like
it's really funny. Like whatever school I work at here, because I work at a few schools, and like every 6 months we kind of change around. But there's always one dude at the school who's like into Canterbury, like
yeah.
new Canterbury, and like they'll be wearing like Canterbury polo, and it will have like
Wow,
a New Zealand flag here with
that's
like New
cool.
Zealand, and then I'm always talking to them, and they're kind of surprised that they don't realize that it's like that it even says New Zealand so blatantly and stuff. They're like, oh yeah, I like. They just like the vibe, I think. because it does have a certain distinct sort of vibe, I guess.
Oh, there's definitely like a yeah, like something that sets them apart from the rest, and you see it in like the NRL jerseys, like the old school ones.
Yeah.
Like whether it's blue badge or whatever you're collecting, the Canterbury ones seem to hold just a bit more kind of like mana, if you will. Like people are yeah, I just seen them go for a little bit more as well, so I think other people recognize that as well.
Yeah, and I don't think, apart from the Warriors, I don't think any Australian brands ever wore, any Australian teams, sorry, ever wore Linko on the field. So, but there were definitely teams that wore Canterbury on the field. And then, Canterbury made versions of like the classic jerseys or whatever for the New Zealand market too. So I think, yeah, with Australian collectors, that rings true about the quality and the design, and Canterbury jerseys aren't really seen as a lesser product or anything like that. Even Linko stands up. I mean, some of the old Linko stuff is really cool.
Yeah, I really enjoy the Linko stuff. I know. I think I picked up like recently a Great Britain jersey. It was Umbro, and then like
Yep.
finding out that it was actually made by Linko in New Zealand.
Yep.
I was like, oh wow.
So they would have
cool.
probably had the contract to sell the
Yeah.
supporter jerseys or make the supporter jerseys and sell them
Yeah.
in New Zealand while a Great Britain tour was going on or something like that, because it would have saved a lot of money in terms of sending product, and also they would have avoided tariffs and stuff. That's why a lot of stuff was made in New Zealand, like by Levi's and Nike and whatever, was to avoid tariffs, and so it was made in New Zealand.
Yeah. Crack up, eh? I know for a little bit they were finding like a Nike made in New Zealand piece was pretty fun. That was pretty fun.
I have a pair of shoes that I love them, man. And they fit me perfectly. 1980, made in New Zealand, Nike Roadrunners, and I found them at Mangere Market. 3 pairs of Nike shoes.
Just what, dead stock or?
Dead stock, yeah.
Damn.
$20 each. One of them was a pair of Nike Daybreak from 1980, made in USA. So I sold those to a guy in the Netherlands. And he's like a weightlifting sneakerhead. Like, he buys everything. And I still follow him. He has an amazing collection. And then a pair that was made in Korea, and then my Roadrunners. Yeah, they're perfect. Like, they're insane. I love them.
It's crazy that, like, now that you're explaining all of the stuff in like your, I guess, fondness for New Zealand-based stuff over, say, American stuff, for example, you've got it from a hat to a jersey to t-shirts, even to your bloody shoes, bro. What the hell? That's crazy.
Pretty hard to find the shoes, to be honest. But
bro, for real, hard. I didn't
I've
even realize.
seen a couple of Nike pairs,
okay.
But they are very hard to find. Yeah, if you find some, keep them.
I doubt I'll find some my size.
You never know. You never know.
True that. I'll keep manifesting that out to the universe.
That's the thing. You gotta be positive, and then things will appear.
Yeah, for real.
But yes, so you mentioned, I remember you go op shopping around, so you go to Rotorua sometimes?
Yeah, so mostly just where I am situated, because where Kawerau is, we can go one way, we're in Whakatane, go the other way, we're in Rotorua, or go the other way, we're in Tauranga.
Yep.
So I usually have to go to those towns for reasons anyway, so while I'm over there, I kind of just go have a look, just go see what's around.
I like having, like, on my Google Maps, I have so many pins. And so, like, if I'm going somewhere for my family or going to stay in this place or go to this restaurant, I always just have a look at my Google Maps. And then if something's pinned nearby, then, like, we'll hit some stores around there,
Yeah. One of the questions we had was around, like, where you find stuff in Japan.
Okay.
And like you can probably share it, because I don't think anyone from New Zealand is going to be going overseas for a long time.
Well, to be honest, not much in stores. I don't find much in stores.
Okay.
I like going to the stores because it's like an art gallery to me. It's like going to see these masterpieces that I've only seen in photos or magazines or online. And
Nice.
then I get to see it all in real life. And I get to see pairs of shoes that maybe I missed out on buying. And then, oh, hello, mate. Here you are with a broken sole now. I can't buy you, but I can say hello, you know? Like, I like seeing these old things. Uh, and the stores that I go to usually have, it's kind of like an op shop, but it's run as a business. So you can go sell stuff to them, but they'll give you like nothing for it really, unless it's like maybe a Supreme thing or some hype thing. Then you'll get a little bit more, but they really undercut, and then they sell for like market value. They're really clued up. Um, they know what's up in terms of pricing. So like you can't really get lucky. This is mainly American stuff in these stores. Like there's a lot of North Face, Patagonia,
Okay.
Nike, lots of American vintage, like Levi's, stuff like that. So I don't find much Canterbury. There's sometimes I get lucky and I find some Canterbury. So I have to be creative with finding the stuff that I want for myself. So I get it mostly online.
Like, but
Off like
in Japan though.
yeah, only
Ah, okay.
Japan really. I don't can't even remember the last time I even looked at an overseas site to be honest. Sometimes my friends send me links from like Depop or those sort of things. I don't even go on Trade Me anymore. It's kind of sad, but I assume that the guy that I do One World with and the million other people that are into this stuff are just like going hard on Trade Me. So it's probably not as easy as it used to be to find cool stuff. Um, so yeah, mainly online, and so I just do my searches. Got my searches saved, and just boom, boom, boom. I search in Japanese as well as English. That's kind of a little hack, and um, it's all well cared for. Always do the same things I used to do in New Zealand. So you ask the people once when you buy something off them, you ask them if they have any more. You know, like that's a pretty
Yeah.
nice way to find stuff.
One thing leads to
Uh,
another, right?
yeah, but I'm not the only one that's into the stuff that I'm into. So one of the websites that I use, it's pretty nicely set up. So it's like all buy now, and the price that you're paying, the shipping is included too. So it's very simple to work out whether you should get something or not. So it also has the sold items on there until the seller removes them. So you can do your search and then you can see something that you missed out on 5 minutes ago. So, and you can see how much it's sold for. So sometimes it can be pretty annoying if you're like, maybe I'll just search for my stuff later. And then you're like, fuck,
Yeah.
I just missed out on this thing. So yeah, but I quite enjoy seeing what stuff sells for and missing out on stuff. It makes me just more driven to find more stuff, I guess.
Damn, it's crazy that you
But
said
it's the same as it's kind of the same demand for certain items as what we know about. So like T-Mex jerseys, for example, sell straight away for some reason on these marketplaces that I go on. But then other things that I quite like for example, this Warriors jersey, if I didn't buy it, might have sat there for months. Um, so yeah, it's hard to predict. It's hard to know
yeah.
who else knows about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not another Kiwi guy in a different part of Japan looking for the same thing.
potentially, or maybe it's our old friends, the Malaysians, who love Timex jerseys,
Oh, okay.
being really good at finding stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. That's dope.
yeah,
Far out. That's such a it's a really cool insight for me, just to hear, I guess, not just like the inception of you guys in creating One World of Sport and how that happened, but also what you're currently doing, like how you're stumbling across all of these kind of, what people will call grails, what you like to call, something else. But it's like really cool to hear, like just how you like obtain a piece or an item. Like I do the same thing. Like when you go into op shops or you're thrifting, and you see something that's really cool and you like it, and it's like unique and obscure, or you've never seen it before, and then you go home and like I'm starting to like research it all up, find out as much information as I can about it. And I love that side of it. And you talked about how going to these shops, it's not like You don't see it as like a thing to go shopping for. It's more like a art gallery, yeah, you're saying. And I see that on your stories because you post up, like you'll post
Yeah,
up
so
like,
the stuff that I post on my stories,
yeah,
I don't buy that stuff really.
yeah, you're just showing it
I
like, hey,
like
this is here.
I might buy like one out of every 1,000 items that I posted. It's just stuff that interests me, and then if you want to follow along and it interests you, then that's cool with me, you know. Sometimes, like I have a few like-minded friends that it's like talking points, you know, like
Yeah, they want to see that stuff
posting
too,
this
right?
stuff. At the stores, I do get quite a lot of stuff for my son though. So like, there's a lot of Polo, there's a lot of Nike, um, and random stuff that I think's cool for my son. So I'll buy that stuff. I usually set myself a limit of like $10 per item. So that keeps me kind of honest and not going too hard. Um, and yeah, it's really fun. That's like the stuff that I'm most excited for at the moment is like kids stuff. Like, so I got this online, but it's a Canterbury fleece, like a kids one.
I've never
It
ever
actually,
seen that.
yeah, it's Japanese Canterbury. So like
Damn.
up close, you can see like that's like a rugby ball, and then the logo, and then it actually comes as part of a jacket set. So this is like the liner, and then it like attaches
Ah,
to the sleeve of the jacket, and
that's
then
crazy.
it's like a two-piece winter jacket. I really, really want Canterbury to re-release this, maybe in like a navy or something, like fleece with this print would be super cool, I reckon. Or orange would be sweet. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of like obviously the triangle like ACG logo, but to me like this is pretty current. Like it would do really well. Everyone's a hiker now. Everyone's a camper now. You know, like everyone likes wearing their hiking gears and whatever.
Yeah, man. Even like
Um,
just as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, if Canterbury released like a hunting line, like a
yeah,
bush shirts and stuff like that, that would go crazy.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I think like we have a dream that's like Canterbury outdoors, my friend and I, and like
Oh
we have
wow.
like a kind of some thoughts around what could work well. Even taking stuff from classic pieces from brands that don't really produce clothing anymore, that we're interested in, like Fairy Down or Line 7,
Yep.
and then sort of incorporating that vibe into one thing. But yeah, here's some more kid stuff. I posted this on my page
I
before, but
seen that
pretty
one.
wild.
Yeah, that's cool.
So there's a bunch of stuff that comes with these patches. These corduroy shirts are really cool.
Man. That
Yeah, they went really wild with the kids gear, Canterbury. And
yeah.
they're still making kids gear now, but it's not this sort of vibe. I don't know how it came about or whatever, but Canterbury, Japan produced heaps of cool stuff, like rugby jerseys with all these patches on, really colorful, even like overalls, jeans with like little fuzzy patches. And
Damn.
I think it must have been uh, early 2000s. So I should probably explain about how Canterbury in Japan works.
Yeah, that'll be. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, hey, like
It's a bit weird.
I need to go to Japan, and I'm sure people who are listening into the podcast are thinking to themselves, all right, I need to go to Japan as well. So how does it work, bro? Like,
So
yeah,
Canterbury Worldwide is owned by a UK company,
okay,
and they also own JD Sports. Well, they're a majority shareholder in JD Sports, and they also own a few other brands like Speedo, Elise. They're
okay,
like there's a few big companies like this in the world that own a bunch of brands.
yeah, yeah.
So like if you go to like an outlet mall, sometimes the brands will be like, if you go to Dressmart, there's one that's like
You'll see the same stuff.
Nautica,
Yeah,
North
yeah,
Face, like kind of in the same store. So
yep.
like either it's the big head office brand that owns these brands and they're all kind of grouped together, shipped together, housed in warehouses together. Or sometimes like in New Zealand, Australia, there might be one company that owns like the distribution rights, and then so they'll import them all together and whatever. So the UK brand, they control Australia, New Zealand, UK. I don't think they operate many other in America too much anymore. I don't think they do. So they have their own shit going on. Back in 2001, a brand called Goldwyn, company called Goldwyn, bought the rights to Canterbury for Japan. So before that, I don't know what the vibe was. Either they had a deal where they were just making these crazy all over prints, but they didn't fully own the brand in Japan yet. But in 2001, so for 20 years now, they've had like full run of whatever they wanted to do. They could stick the Canterbury badge on whatever they wanted and sell it. And Goldwyn does the same with North Face in Japan. And so they make special North Face with like purple labels that's highly sought after by collectors in America, and they don't understand why they don't sell it in America, but it's only sold in Japan. So Japan is basically big enough. There's 125 million people.
Yeah.
It's big enough to be its own little world, you know, like
for real.
they don't need to worry about what's going on somewhere else or worry about selling to other markets for these things. They have their own market sussed. The other day, on Friday, I was walking in Osaka. I had to go there for some chores. And so I was walking around and there was a brand new Canterbury store I hadn't seen before. And I was like, wow. You know, like I love seeing, because there's quite a few Canterbury stores in Japan. Every big city has one. So I was like, wow, this looks really nice. So I went in and was looking around. I posted it on my story. They had like the 100-year All Blacks jersey on the wall, like framed, and they had done a really nice job with merchandising and stuff in the store, like getting old stuff, and it was really cool, really well, nicely done. And so we got talking to the people, and it was actually their opening day. So like I just stumbled upon it on their opening day. It was crazy. And it's called Horie, the area, Horie. So like their name on Instagram for that specific store, it looks like it just says Canterbury_Horie. It's pretty funny. They have no idea. But yeah, they do a bunch of like kind of stuff that would be pretty on the nose in New Zealand. Like they have t-shirts. They didn't actually have any this time, but they've been known to make t-shirts that say like haka war cry, and then it will be like the instructions on how to do the haka, like stuff like that. It's kind of done in like a respectful way, but like I don't think you could ever sell something like that in New Zealand and get away with it, you know, without there being backlash. But their main thing is like they deck out the Japanese rugby team in their kit. And if you look online, there's some pretty cool videos of like Canterbury, Japan, like making the Japanese rugby team jersey and like in the factory, and like, it's pretty cool.
I think you shared the rugby league team one once.
Oh, that really old stuff?
Yeah.
I brought that jersey with me.
What?
This one?
Bro, what the hell?
I guess this is what I'd call a grail for me. Like I hunted this jersey for a really long time.
Yeah, that's the one you shared. Damn.
Ever since I found out about it, I just really wanted it. But yeah, they only played a handful of games in like 93, 94 in this particular jersey. They played at the 94-95 World Sevens in Australia, where it was like some club teams and some international teams. They were like invited to play. But yeah, Canterbury here completely runs separately to New Zealand. So there's like no communication between the two as far as I know. And the funniest part, when you go into a store here, I was holding up this blue and like cream stripy jersey the other day. And they do this range of jerseys that's actually made in New Zealand. And nobody knows how. Canterbury, New Zealand doesn't know how they do it or whatever. These jerseys are exactly like how the old jerseys used to be. They have 52-48, like polyester to cotton ratio. They have the exact same collar. They have a rubber button. They have long cuffs like the old jerseys. These jerseys are like premium. They're so dope. They sell them for, I think the retail is like $180, maybe 200 sometimes. So I've only owned one. It was a blue and yellow one, like Bay of Plenty sort of colors. But that one I saw the other day, I want to get it, but I don't like paying retail, so I'll try to find it a little bit down the track maybe.
Wait, so you said you don't know how they...
I don't know where the factory is, or I don't know. Somehow New Zealand Canterbury hasn't made jerseys in New Zealand for like 20 years.
But someone's making them,
Yeah,
like recently.
yeah. They're selling them right now. They've been selling them for maybe, as far as I can work out, at least 5 to 10 years, maybe around 5 years, I think. There's
But
been like, they just have a
overseas.
select like maybe 4 or 5 jerseys every year. Early on, they just did like one jersey a year, and it was to celebrate like a certain milestone of like Canterbury. And they were only doing this in Japan. And the store has so much dope heritage about Canterbury. Like it's something that I've never seen in a Canterbury store in New Zealand. It's
That's
amazing.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's
So
some
if you come to Japan on holiday, anybody, go have a look at a Canterbury store. It'll buzz you out.
That's crazy. That's like some inside scoop type of shit, eh? Like they're
Well,
getting.
they own the rights. They paid a big amount of money. Maybe they pay an ongoing fee. I don't know how exactly that works. But
Yeah.
Goldwyn, the thing I like is not only did they pay for the rights to the brand, but they're like putting the brand on a pedestal. You know, like
Mm,
they don't cut corners with quality.
treating it well, eh? Yeah,
They
that's
don't
cool.
slap the Canterbury badge on just anything. You
Yep.
know, like there's
Yep.
some kind of out there items that are kind of buzzy, and there's some like kind of activewear sort of like they have this R plus brand that's aimed at like rugby training slash
Okay.
running, that I probably wouldn't wear, but it's still nicely done, you know, and uh, that's cool. Like they haven't just bought the brand and then driven it, like milked it for all it's worth in the wrong way, you
Yeah.
know, like they're,
Yeah.
yeah.
They've given it its respect, eh? That's
Yeah,
dope.
it's really cool. And they also try to incorporate like New Zealand culture in their lines. They might like have like a Maori word for the name of like some new line that they're bringing out, and they'll say like what the word means and
Oh,
like
cool.
why they've done it and incorporated these colors. And um, there was like I call it like reggae colors, but you know what I mean, like yellow, red, green, uh, sort of the stripies. They re-released those like last year, and then they were talking about how the different colors mean like a different, like the sun and the sea and yeah, it's pretty cool.
I like that. There's a bit of thought into it, eh? They're
Yeah,
not just.
it's not just like culture grab, you know, cash grab
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah. I like that. And it's gosh, that makes me real like proud in a way, I suppose, too, that something of a product or a brand from New Zealand is doing such doing really well overseas in a market such so big as Japan. Look at how much population did you say? 100 and something million?
125 million.
Damn.
Yeah.
I can't even fathom
So
that in my head.
the country isn't too much bigger than New Zealand. It's like
No, it's not,
1.2 times the size. So yeah, it's not too much bigger. To be honest, the countryside is very similar, like mountains, rivers, lots of green scenery. It looks a lot more like New Zealand than like Australia looks compared to New Zealand. You know how you go to Australia and it's really distinctive, like red
Yeah.
dirt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel at home here. But instead of having one mountain like in Kawerau, my whole town is like surrounded in mountains. It's pretty buzzy.
That's dope. um Bro, that I'm just conscious of time and taking up your time and stuff like that, and just what
It's
you've
almost
shared.
lunchtime.
Oh, I'm loving your little posts of your lunch trays as well. There,
Yeah, the
I'm
Q
like,
shocker.
I wonder what he's gonna eat next. Like, it's pretty cool.
I
Um,
yeah, I love my school lunch. It's like a plan, so like you pay a certain amount per month, and then it ends up being like $3 or $4 per day, and then yeah, it's dope. It's really healthy too most of the time.
yeah, it looks good. Um, bit of a what is it, 3 course meal? Nah, two. You get
There's
a
always
meal.
like a rice and a
Yeah,
some kind of protein, and then like a salad, and then there's milk every day too. Yeah.
yeah. Damn, that's dope. I could have done with that back
Were
in
there any
school.
more questions that you wanted to ask?
Oh man, like you've covered a lot of stuff here, and some of the information you've given is just unreal. And I know there's because there've been people who've been waiting for me to talk to you, wanting me to get you to share your secrets.
Hard work. Nah, honestly, just have an open mind. Don't assume. Don't assume that. somewhere won't have something, or
Mm.
always look in the kids section of a store, always look in the women's section of a store.
Yeah.
If you see something that's half a chance, then like it's probably a chance. So just have a good look. Have an open mind with like items too. If something catches your eye and it looks cool, buy it, wear it. Like you don't have to know 10 other people that agree with that brand to be able to wear it. Like take a risk. And yeah, do what you said, like buy something and then research it and find out more information about it. It's always nice for me to know what I'm wearing or what it means or whatever. It's a good feeling.
That's dope, bro. Appreciate that. Hey, we'll finish with I usually ask just some like five really fun questions at the end.
Okay.
And it'll be cool to get like a Japanese version of it too, having you living over there. So the first question I ask is what's your favorite ice cream flavor? But I'll probably change it to what's like the go-to dessert over in Japan for you, bro.
Okay. In New Zealand, I would say goody goody gumdrops. In Japan, go-to dessert. I quite like this polar bear ice cream. That's like, it's actually shaved ice, but it's got like condensed milk, and then it has some fruit in it. Shaved ice is a pretty popular thing in Japan during summer, and it's pretty good. Yeah, but the convenience stores are constantly having like new ice cream, so like you can't get too attached to stuff, otherwise it'll change. But there's some classics that stay around forever too. So yeah, the ice cream game is strong here. Actually, my supermarket in town has New Zealand ice cream, and they have a hokey pokey flavor, but it's called double caramel. Like the balls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Double caramel. I'm gonna check that out. That polar bear you said, eh? So shaved.
I'll send you a
ice.
picture after.
Yeah, very sweet. Food, bro. What's the food like, and what's your go-to kai, bro? Like, the question usually is, what's your go-to pie?
Okay. In New Zealand, go-to pie would be smoked fish with like a potato top,
Nice.
ideally. I'm not a big pie eater, to be honest, so I don't miss them from home. There's not really too many things I'm missing from home, and I think it's because the food here is so good. Like, it's really hard to find bad food. In my town, there's not so many like foreign options. Like we have, like in terms of not Japanese, like we have an Indian restaurant. We have like a Chinese restaurant. But so when I go to the cities, I usually try to seek out like Vietnamese food or Mexican food, stuff like that I can't get at home. But for Japanese food, sushi's obviously really good. In summer, I love having sushi, or have cold noodles in the summer a lot.
Yeah.
And then in the winter, we have these like hot pot things that are kind of like stews from home. Like there's one called niku jaga, and so it's like meat and potatoes, and then a few other veggies, and then it's in like a kind of like a sauce, and then you have it with rice, and it's good in winter, bro. Like the winter food, the hot pot stuff is fucking mean.
That sounds nice, bro. A friend of mine, they were in lockdown together in Auckland at Fale Dojo. They were doing some training. They're doing like a wrestling training camp for New Japan Wrestling.
Oh yeah.
And they were having chanko. Is it chanko? Is that how you pronounce that? That sumo. It's like sumo boil.
Sumo hot pot thing. Yeah. It's like makes you put mad weight on it.
Yeah.
There's some restaurants you can go to get that. I haven't actually had it, but I've heard about it. Yeah. I went to one wrestling show, and it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
There was like this Kiwi guy who was like one of the stars. This little white dude. It was fuzzy.
What?
Yeah.
In New Zealand,
he's like pretty famous here. Yeah.
Damn. I'm gonna be talking to I don't know how to say his name properly. Is it Konishiki? He's he was like one of the early Hawaiian sumos that came over in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, him and Musashi Maru. I think Musashi Maru was the second foreign-born Yokozuna. So I'm gonna have him on. I think maybe next week or the week after. So it'll be cool to ask him a few questions about that too. But yeah, I love sumo, bro. Like, yeah,
it's one of those things that it's not too accessible. Like they only have a couple tournaments a year, and like you don't really hear people going to it all that often. I think a group of my friends went a few years ago from my town before I came, but I'll try to go once they have crowds again and stuff like that.
Yeah, true that.
But yeah, it's one of those things that from outside of Japan, it seems like it's probably like everywhere. But once you're here, you don't really get it mentioned too much. It's on
Yeah.
TV, like some big tournaments on TV, like once or twice a year. Yeah,
Yep.
they're way too obsessed with baseball to have time for sumo.
Oh man, it's got bloody Shohei's killing it, So the next, I think, two questions, or three questions actually, is the music, bro. What kind of music did you listen to growing up, or are you still listening to now?
So when I was really young, like in Kawerau, I was probably listening to like Bone Thugs and Harmony, something like that. From my fighting sensei, you know, he was blasting the Snoop Dogg. But when I went to Auckland, I got pretty into like punk music, and then my uncle also had like a crazy big CD collection, so I got introduced to like lots of older music. My dad had lots of older music, so I think that's what's shining through now. I quite enjoy just rock music, to be honest, like old rock music. But newer bands, I like the Lathams or the Lathams. They're from Wigan in England, and they're really good. They're only like just starting out. They just released their first album. And I really like an Australian band called the DMAs, and they are like Britpop sort of style, like Oasis sort of influenced, and they're making music at the moment, but in that full UK like mid-90s style. So they basically only tour around the UK mainly, and like they're really popular up there. It's pretty buzzy.
That's dope. I'll have to listen into those ones. The last question is, it's around like who's your sorry, stick to the last question. Like your favorite athlete or sports person, but we could go your favorite Auckland Warrior. We could do anything here, right? It's up to you.
Okay. To be honest, favorite warrior was always Madaleno up to a certain point.
Nice.
Then I used to say Mannery. I guess because I just liked his values and stuff. But now, like as part of, sometimes in class I'll show like some league highlights or whatever, and the stuff that gets me the most like fired up and like good memories is like Sean Johnson highlights, man. And when I found out that he was coming back to the Warriors, I was like,
what?
On cloud nine for the whole day. I was just like,
Are you
yeah, he's
serious?
coming back. Yeah, bro. It got announced like a few months ago. So he signed a deal. He'll be playing at the Warriors next year. I think it's a 2-year deal. But so yeah, you don't really know. You don't really love something until it's gone. You know what I mean? Like I realized, I was like, holy shit, like he's coming back, and it just felt right. So yeah, I have to say favorite Warrior, Sean Johnson. But yeah, you know, Hydro Wakasini. There's some pretty cool dudes from over the years.
Yeah.
Favorite athlete all up, I don't know. At the moment, like in the last few years, the most entertaining sports person is Tyson Fury.
Yeah, it's a good fight, eh? I'm glad he won.
Hopefully
I like him.
he has more fights. Yeah, like I wouldn't like to see him. He's like the kind of dude I can imagine just like, I'm gone, like I'm retired, you know, like hopefully we get a few more fights out of him.
No, I quite enjoy Fury. I like how he conducts himself out of the ring.
Yeah.
A lot of his interviews that he does with people, you can see that he's human. He's not a superstar, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got his foibles, you know, like he messes up, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I actually remember now when you're talking about Sean Johnson. I did remember seeing that. I was like, I must have forgotten for some reason. Maybe I just want to forget this year's.
It's been pretty weird
season.
because he signed, but he was injured, so like there wasn't that talking point in the media of like,
there wasn't.
Oh, Sean Johnson's playing good, so like, are the Sharks going to be shit without him? Or if he's playing shit, being like, oh, have the Warriors bought a dud? You know, like, so he was injured, so there was none of that like talking point. It'll happen next year. Don't worry.
Don't worry. It'll happen next year for sure.
So yeah, because I left 2 years ago, and that season, because I used to have season tickets, and I missed like the last, I think it was 2 games, and then that's the last 2 games they played at Mount Smart. So I've been away for like 2 years, 2 months or something, and I've only missed 2 home games. It's crazy. It's so sad, man.
Yeah, for real. Damn. Oh man, we'll get there, bro. No doubt about it. What's
Yeah.
your thought? Actually, one more question, bro. What's your thoughts on another franchise in New Zealand?
Oh, I'm all for it. I would love it. It will be
For
the
real.
greatest thing for the Warriors to have a rivalry.
Yeah.
To be honest, I like rugby league over the Warriors. Like to me, I love the Warriors, but rugby league is more important. That's why I love the international game. I think like going to those Tonga tests is the best atmosphere I've been to. I've been to State of Origin games before, and the Tonga games were much better. And uh, the more people we have playing the game, then the more players are gonna rise up, and then there's gonna be demand for more teams. Like eventually, there's no reason why New Zealand can't have 3 teams, 4 teams, whatever.
Mm. I'd love to see
Um,
a Christchurch-based team. Eh?
that would be cool. Yeah, I think that they would really get behind it. You can't have a city with too many options, like for people. Like if there's too much going on in a city, then like maybe they're not going to be the best supporters in a smaller place. Uh, but yeah, I've heard talk that there might be like a second Auckland team that might be the most financially viable, like a team that's based out in South Auckland, like further South Auckland, and one in North Auckland. But yeah, obviously there's Wellington, Christchurch. But yeah, that's the question really, is where.
Mm.
But there's the talent there, and I think that it will be great for the Warriors.
I think it'll be good too, in the sense like we may be able to keep our players home as well. So,
Yeah, yeah.
we've only got
If
one
there's more
team.
options locally,
Yeah,
then people are gonna be more inclined to stay in New Zealand. Yeah.
yeah, that'd be awesome. We've lost a few players to bloody State of Origin and Kangaroos, but oh
What do you
well.
think? So you think that it would be good to have a second team?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
what their plan was to bring in this Brisbane team, the 17th team. Uh, then that creates a bye every week, so it's not ideal. So there's always going to be that need for an 18th team so that they can
Mm,
have an extra game for the TV audience. Because at the moment, there's going to be an extra team, but there's still going to be 8 games every week. So that's not going to be making
yep.
extra money from the broadcasters. So this is to set up for an 18th team, and then their plan was to send Gus Gould to New Zealand. When it was announced, it was kind of weird. Like, is he working for the New Zealand Rugby League? Is he working for the Warriors? It was a bit miscommunication. So I think what their plan was to send Gus to New Zealand, get the Warriors to win a comp, and then introduce a second New Zealand team. That was their ideal situation. And also for him to do some groundwork and figure out if a second New Zealand team is viable.
Mm,
Um, but unfortunately, it didn't work out, and so he's gone. But hopefully, they still have that dream alive for a second New Zealand team, because they realize that so many players from that play in the Australian comp have come
yep.
via New Zealand.
Yep.
Um, and if it wasn't for New Zealand, um, there would be a whole lot less players. Like
Yep.
it's crazy.
Oh,
So
but
yeah, I'm all for it.
even if it may not even be New Zealand, like maybe Papua New Guinea deserves its own team, franchise as well.
100% they deserve a team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Fiji might be another option. I don't know, somewhere close anyway to be able to,
The
location
thing I
wise.
like about New Zealand is like it sets up home and away with the with the Warriors. So there'll be
Yeah,
more
true
New
that.
Zealand and games in New Zealand, and then there'll be
Yeah.
all those other home games in New Zealand for the other teams. So for those people that travel around New Zealand to come to the Warriors games from Christchurch, from Wellington,
Mm,
it gives them more options. It's cool. Like, to be honest, we are starved of rugby league in New Zealand, and like we don't get anywhere near as many international games or NRL games. There should be more NRL games from Sydney clubs who can't attract crowds over there. They should come bring their games to New Zealand. Like, they sign
oh,
these
big
5-year
time.
deals and then they only do it for 1 year. Like, it's so annoying.
Um, and like let's not forget too that there's a whole range of NRL supporters that aren't Warriors fans here in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they'd love to see their own teams play, and yeah, nah, it's really good. Good talking points there, eh? And I'm sure it'll happen sooner or later, surely.
One day. I think the key is getting into that high school market in New Zealand, like getting league in there, because there's so many schools that you're not allowed to play
Yeah.
league, or and that's the thing
Junior structure, eh?
that'll always cut you off. If you're not attracting kids to play the game, then at that level, so many kids start off playing league and then they get to high school. I could only play rugby at my school, so like I couldn't play league anymore.
Yeah.
And that goes for most kids.
Yeah. So definitely some. I actually thought Gus would help sort that out in terms of
Yeah, I
just
think he
how,
would have.
yeah, just
But
like structure that club level structure and how to actually
yeah,
develop young like 5-year-olds and develop them through the grades. That's what
yeah,
Australia does really,
keep them in
really
the
well.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
grow them in the game, grow the game. Like yeah, oh yeah, that might be another podcast, bro.
can of worms.
Yeah. What were you saying?
That's a big can of worms, like, and there's
Yeah,
no answer really.
yeah. Um, when I think about just the smaller clubs, say, and the reliance on volunteers and
Yeah,
parents and family support, I think, oh man, grassroots, say, like, if we can get that right, then maybe we can, start looking at schools having first 13s instead of first 15s and
yeah,
having big secondary school competitions and whatnot. But, I
yeah. I don't
don't
know. Like, to me, there's no comparison to league in terms of entertainment, and it's just the best sport. Like,
know.
it's so easy to watch. It's so easy to explain to someone for the first time. It's got everything, man. And like off field, it's like the most entertaining shit ever. It's the best. It's the best. Like
Yeah.
if we just could convince all of Melbourne to stop playing that game and all of New Zealand to stop playing Union, and then it became league. Like imagine that. We could have like a 40-team comp.
Yeah. I always laugh at like I love league in the respect of that like you get someone like Sonny Bill Williams who's a forward, right, but he goes to Union and plays in the backs, or you have someone like Taukeiaho who's a forward, sometimes plays prop, but sometimes he plays standoff, and he's also the team kicker as well.
Yeah, I think
Like
Tokiaho was a winger for the Warriors under 20.
wow.
Yeah.
But like, see that I just feel like the skill sets of rugby league players is a little bit more. Like it's not uncommon to see like a forward who has amazing ball handling skills or has touch
Yeah.
with, has touch when it comes to kicking or.
I guess that's where people on the other side of the fence would say that rugby league players are all the same, and the best thing about Union is that you have individual positions with individual skill sets, and you can tell apart a team by how they look. Like the locks look like this, the halfback looks like this. But yeah, I love the fact that people are interchangeable in league, and that there's players who can come onto the field and play any number of positions. You look at Brandon Smith, like you could put him anywhere,
bro. Like, and I that's why I never played Union myself, is because I didn't like being cubbyholed. Like, oh, you're tall, you'll be a lock.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, if you're tall in rugby league, you could be a fullback, you could be a winger, you could be a second rower, you could be whatever you want. Like,
and it stifles your development. Like if you're just a prop,
time.
like I used to play. I used to play like hooker, standoff, halfback when I played league, but then I put on weight at a certain age, and then when I played rugby, I could only play prop. So like I didn't develop any like ball handling skills or anything. All I was developing was like scrum training or like lifting or whatever.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of feel like league has the kind of edge over rugby union in terms of,
and it's developing skills in rugby that I feel like aren't even that entertaining to watch. Like, do people actually like watching scrums? Do people actually like watching like lineouts? Like, wouldn't they rather just be a play the ball or a tap, or like you just want ball and play and like creating scoring opportunities? In my mind, like these old school like set pieces, they're cool in terms of like it's keeping that tradition of the game alive, but it's not entertaining for me.
Did you hear my son was telling me about the new it's like a 40-20, but they've
50-22.
Okay,
50-22.
Yeah. I had to laugh.
I think the only reason I haven't actually seen it in motion, like I haven't seen someone do one, but to me it seems kind of easy, but maybe because there's more players on the field, it might make it slightly harder. But honestly, I think they probably would have made it a 40-22, but they probably didn't want to completely copy the name from League. Like, there's always this, like, kind of, yeah. It's not coming from our side of the fence that they're trying to take them down. It's them naming competitions like World Rugby League, like putting league in there so then people get confused and shit. Like, terrible. One day we'll rise to the top.
One day, bro, for sure.
But yeah, I'm glad that the NRL exists, man. It's the coolest sports competition in the world. Like, I tune in, I watch all the games every week, and this season was amazing. I loved it.
Outside of Warriors, bro, who's your kind of horse after that?
For League?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't really have a second team too much. I was pretty happy that the Panthers won, so maybe Panthers. I like underdog teams, so like it's cool to see the Rabbitohs good again. Teams I don't like, I really don't like Manly.
Explain, bro.
Just there's a lot of hurt there, you know. Grand final loss, lots of field goal losses, and just the general vibe. But I have it's not like a disrespect. I respect them, but I dislike them, if you know what I mean. Like, I know they're always going to turn up. I think that's half the reason why I don't like them. We've never really smashed them, you know. It's one of those clubs.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, my family's doggies. Like a lot of my family are Bulldog supporters.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So after
it's been a tough run.
Been a tough since Uncle Des left. Yeah, it's been pretty
but
pretty
to
tough.
be honest, up until that point, very, very successful club, and I think there's a lot of money behind the scenes and stuff there. Especially like there's a new name sponsor who's like not afraid to attract players, if you know what I mean. So they'll come back. Yeah, they've recruited. I'm not really 100% sold on all their recruits, but the fact that they're recruiting like name players is definitely a good sign. Yeah. And Gus is there now, so the Godfather.
Yeah. And I mean, like Fox is there now, so maybe he's talking to players too now. You know, hey, come over. You know,
I think Trent Barrett is like a better recruiter than he is a coach. It seems like he's good at recruiting. Yeah, he hasn't really proven himself as a coach just yet, but the right people believe in him. So yeah, who knows? Or with Gus there, as long as he hangs around, he'll get the right coach, and then they'll go well. They just need to stop recruiting outside backs. So many like wannabe fullbacks and wingers, and yeah.
Yeah, get a good spine, man. Build off that, eh?
Yeah, they still don't have a hooker, really. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be cool to see Burden in his preferred position. And I don't think we've seen the last of Flanagan. He showed good signs early. I think he'll come.
Yep. No, we'll get there. Hey, bro. We might wrap it there. Just conscious of your time, bro. And just want to say thanks, bro. Thanks for jumping on and sharing. Fun.
No worries. I've got a little song to finish us out.
Nice.
Okay. Puto waki ne te maunga, tara wera ne te aua, koro tahi te iwi, ahi owe owe. It's like ingrained in all these old songs that I've learned back at Kawerau Central.
Love it, bro. Yeah, well, appreciate your time, bro. Not just you know, with your page and stuff, but also it's good to talk to someone who's from here, from home, and doing awesome things overseas. And
keep up the good work, man.
You too, bro. Like, I really appreciate.
I'm interested to see who else you get on. I actually had the desire to start my own podcast when I moved back to New Zealand, but based around finding the people that were involved in making the gear back in the day.
That'll be awesome.
Like tracking down the old designers, tracking down the old ladies who were working on the sewing machines, making the rugby jerseys. So that's a little project of mine that I'd like to.
I'd love to see that, and I'd love to see that in like a documentary format, bro. Like, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, maybe it can be alongside my Malaysian adventure story where I get to track down some jerseys. I like to think that I'm involved in repatriation of New Zealand archives. So, like, I'm just tracking down all the stuff that's overseas and then, like, taking it back to the motherland.
Nah, you really are, bro. You really are doing that, eh? That's pretty mean. Nah. Thank you, bro. Thank you for the water as well, bro. Really appreciate your time, bro.
Okay, thank you, and yeah, keep up the good work.